Welcome to SCDrummer. I'm Steve. Today we're going to work on getting the most out of our practice time. I'm going to give you some ideas that have worked for me and students, and hopefully they're going to help you as well. Now, if you like the video, hit like, drop me a comment, and please, if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel. First thing we're going to talk about is I recommend you get a drum book. A book that is specifically dedicated to your drumming. We're going to use that like a log. And every time we do anything on our drums, we're going to make sure that we keep a note of it in a drum book. So anytime we're practicing, it's going to be important that we have access to that drum book. So it should be close. Whether it's here, if I'm practicing my drum set, or if I'm in another room practicing my rudiments on the drum pad, I want that book nearby. And everything that I do from now on, I'm going to log in this drum book. That's going to be important because then we're going to be able to go back later and review where we're at and where we're going. Another tip, the first thing I suggest that you do with this new drum book that you have is draw a column. Draw a line right down the center of the page. I want you to list your strengths on one side, your weaknesses on another. Now, to me, a strength is the ability to play whatever concept I'm doing, whether it's a rudiment, a fill, a groove, that I can play it at any tempo that I want to play it in, that I have complete control of the dynamics of it, and that I can play it or execute it at will, meaning that it hits my brain and it's executed immediately. If anything doesn't meet those criteria, then it falls into the weakness category. Now, with that said, I always taught my students to break it down into small increments of time. I want to break it into 30, 60, and 90-day increments of time so it's easier to stay focused on what I want to achieve. So when you prioritize your weaknesses, which I recommend that you do, you want to prioritize them by 30 days. What do you want to accomplish within the next 30 days? Then by 60 days, and finally by 90 days. And then we're going to prioritize those weaknesses by the number falling in sequential importance, okay? So things I want to do in the 30 days, obviously going to rank higher in my weaknesses than the things I want to be able to accomplish in the next 90 days. That's going to help me stay focused here instead of focusing on here. Anytime you sit down and work on something new, let's make sure that we work on it perfectly. Perfectly means that I can match a limb to an audible count and that I don't make any mistakes. Common sense, right? I call it perfect practicing. We want to develop muscle memory that's positive. We want the mind and our limbs to know that they're in sync and they're doing a technique perfectly every time until we can do it and almost not have to think about it anymore because our mind is in sync with our limbs and they will do it on their own, which will then become a strength, right? So anytime you're first practicing, perfect practice the technique. Don't put a metronome on yet. Let's do it with an audible count. Let's make sure that we're matching a limb to the right count, that we're applying the limb to where it's supposed to be applied, and that we can do that repetitively to the point where it becomes almost second nature. That is creating positive muscle memory. Once we get that down, then we can go back and put on a metronome and then start charting our tempo. I also suggest that we think outside the box a little bit. Some of my best practicing has been not sitting behind a drum set. For example, my hand speed, my hand control is almost exclusively been done nowhere near my drum set. It's actually been sitting in front of a TV or in bed. How? Well, here's why. When I first learned the technique, say it's a rudiment, I did it like everybody else on a snare drum or a drum pad. And I perfected it. Whatever time it took me to get it so it was perfect, I perfected it. I reinforced that positive muscle memory. Then I got to a point where I could do it without having to think about it, which is the ultimate goal. I found myself getting bored when I would sit down with a pad or my snare drum and I would just do my rudiments. So what I ended up doing is, every time I sat down to watch TV, during a commercial break, I would have my sticks nearby, and as soon as that first commercial hit, I would start doing a rudiment. Most commercials are 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. As soon as the commercial changed to another one, I did another rudiment. And so forth and so on. And I found, if I watched a couple hours of TV, I was actually practicing and not having to interrupt something that I actually wanted to be able to do. And I didn't have to be sitting behind a drum set to do it. Because we all know that drums are loud. So sometimes it's not the most convenient instrument to be able to play without bothering the rest of the house. And I found that through years of doing that my hands were incredible without feeling like I was actually doing anything, except on commercial breaks I would do my rudiments. To this day, I do my hands and my rudiments every night in bed watching TV. Because I may go up at 9 o'clock at night and I stay up till about 11. That's 2 hours. I've gotten to the point, through hard work and positive muscle memory, that I can literally do my rudiments and not have to think about them. So what I do is I'll watch an hour TV show and I might be doing singles the whole time. My hands are just flying on a pillow. Could be on it next to me on the bed, whatever. And I found that by doing that, I'm constantly keeping my hands in shape. I'm keeping those rudiments in my strength column, and that I could develop them without feeling like I had to sacrifice any of my relaxation time. Okay, so that was thinking outside the box. Now I'm not saying for an hour straight I do singles. I may stop at a commercial for a break. I may tinker for 10-15 minutes in the first commercial break. I put the sticks down. When it comes back on, or maybe 2 commercial breaks in, I'll grab them again and start again. But I do it 2 hours a night, every night. And I work on rudiments. I do my singles, my doubles, and my paradiddles. I'll do 5-stroke rolls, 7-stroke rolls. But the point is, think outside the box. There might be other ways that you can practice that don't require you having to sit down behind a drum set. Quick side note, I don't think it should even have to be said, but let me just say just in case. Limit your distractions. Your practice time is just that. It's your time. My cell phone is off. I let my family know prior that I'm going to go down to practice, so they know not to bother me for that allotted amount of time. And so it allows me to have my time to focus on the things that I want to be able to focus on, and I don't have to worry about being distracted. That's very important. Your cell phones, we all spend our days in them, right? Listen, for that hour, you can live without your cell phone. Turn it off. So limit distractions. Yeah. Reward yourself at the end of each practice session. If you've done the work and you stayed committed to working on those weaknesses every time you're sitting down behind your drum set, or on your drum pads in another room, or on pillows like I suggested, reward yourself at the end of your practice session with working on things that are fun, working on strength so they stay in the strength column, working on experimentation. Just have fun. Put on your earphones, play some tunes, but reward yourself so that you get a tangible for the work you've put in. That way you're motivated to come back and do it again. One of the best tips I can give you guys is an analogy that has served me and my students well. Think of your drumming like you're speaking. Everything that we're working on is part of a vocabulary that we're trying to build. No differently than when you're newborn. You don't know any words, you learn a few, you're always boring to talk with or try to communicate with. So as we get older, we learn more words, our vocabulary hopefully is becoming larger, we can communicate better. So every time we're sitting on a drum set, we want our vocabulary to be as large as we can so that we have words at our disposal that will make us interesting to listen to. Some musical contexts will require that we have a bigger vocabulary. Some other musical situations, we don't need to have as big of a drumming vocabulary, but it's always nice to have a large vocabulary and to keep adding to it. So every time you sit down and you practice, think of it like you're talking. When I do this, am I speaking clearly? Will the listener be able to understand what I'm trying to say? If you use that analogy, I think you're going to find that your practice takes on a little bit different meaning, and you'll start to appreciate that feels a little sloppy. If I was saying that, it might be hard for the listener to understand what I was just trying to do. Or, am I trying to fit in too many words? Am I speaking too fast for what I'm trying to say in the context of my conversation? Does it fit the context of the conversation? So a huge tip is, think of your drumming like you're speaking. It is a language. It's a language of music. In our case, we speak in rhythms. We want to speak clearly. We want to speak precisely. And we always want to speak in a context of the musical setting that we're in. And last but not least, I'm honored that you checked out the channel, and hopefully you liked it and you subscribed. But just like you, I'm constantly looking at other YouTube channels and trying to see what I can learn from them. And I found a few that I find to be very well done with extremely good content, and that I would suggest that you check out. Now, some of you might say, why would you ever recommend another channel? Well, one, this isn't a competition. Drumming is an art. We're in a community that should want to embrace each other and try to help each other. That's the whole purpose I set up the channel in the first place, was to try to help teach from my experiences. So I have no problem suggesting these people because they have great content and they have proven track records. I love Mike Johnston. I think his positive energy is incredible. He's a great clinician and a great drummer. His content is very good. He also attacks the mental aspect of things as well as playing. Stephen Taylor's another guy that I really like what he does. Rob Brown, Jeff Randall, Drumeo, Jared Falk, and the list goes on. I subscribe to probably 15 different drummers' channels, and I really do like them, and I really do check them out. And I subscribe and I leave comments because they have something I don't, and I may have something down the road that they don't, but if nothing else, I can learn. And that's the ultimate goal, is for all of us to want to help each other learn. So I hope you liked the video. Thanks for checking it out. Again, please like and subscribe. Drop me a comment. And hopefully I'll see you next time. Thanks for checking me out, guys. Take care.